Let's do it for real this time. Yeah, go ahead.
For sure. All right. Well, what's up? My name is Sam, and you are listening to Echo and Ember.
When I first came up with the concept for this show, you were one of the people that I was really excited to talk to. So I'm really glad that you're here. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. Is this your first one?
This is the first one.
Oh, the inaugural.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is the first recorded one. I don't know what order they'll be released, but you're the first person to sit in the chair.
I'm honored, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
No, and when I say this, I really mean it. I'm not teasing you. No pressure. Like, I have no idea what this is. This is more about just like getting in and exploring and finding what's there. So, I guess to get started, we know your name's Sam. If you just kind of want to give us a little bit of, as a creative, what is it that you do?
Yeah. Well, we got the Sam part out of the way. That's the hardest part. I am a videographer and editor. Hopeful cinematographer one day, whatever that might look like. I currently work a day job as a videographer at Our State Magazine. That's a new endeavor, but so far, really enjoying that. It's been a blessing. And I'm also trying to make this kind of freelance life happen on the side and build that up. And we're still, like I mentioned earlier when we were meeting before this, you've caught me at a great time. I'm very much at the, what I would say is the early stages, although I'm not sure if I'll ever not feel that way. But I have a particular fondness for, I like commercial work, but if we can inject some narrative storytelling in there, maybe get to the heart of people's businesses and why they do what they do, and just just try to inject some humanity into the pieces. That's kind of what I'm about. But that's kind of a 50,000 foot view.
I love that
right now.
I love that. So, it's interesting talking to you, and I say this with like all the humility in my heart, is I feel like we are on very similar paths, but I might just be a little bit further down. That's not to say that I've got it all figured out or anything.
I think you're paving the way.
Hey, I'll take that. I'll take that.
You're welcome.
And so I guess for those who don't know, like, so you're a videographer, you're editor, going to a cinematographer. How did you find your way into this line of work?
Man, it was crazy. I was probably a junior, senior in high school. And I think like most people that age, I was kind of really going through it when it came to trying to understand my identity, who I am, who I believe I've been created to be. And I was feeling very lost. I went through a couple of not abnormal, but difficult circumstances that really just kind of threw me into a bit of a loop. And I was having trouble getting out of bed. And one day I was like, man, I've had enough of this. I need something in my life to give me kind of a sense of direction. Interestingly, I had taken a stab at making some very cringy YouTube videos that are now private, so you can't find it if you go look. I'll share them off camera with you. But I, did one or two of those, and I was like, I don't know, this is whatever. But it was in that moment where I was really feeling it, where I was like, I was doing this YouTube thing. Maybe I just give it another go. Stepped in front of the camera, turned the lights on, and man, like it was everything that I was experiencing, all the weight of just kind of the world that I was carrying on my shoulder, just felt like it evaporated in that moment. It felt like I had a voice, even if only a handful of people were going to see it, a couple hundred at most, like if it empowered me. And that was in that moment, I was like, wow, there's really something special about this whole video thing. And that prompted me to go to school for it, to learn a little bit more about it. And I was still kind of in the mindset of like how it impacts me, how it helps me, gives me a voice. Wasn't until I got out of college, I got my first gig at a local news station as a photojournalist, which for people who don't know, that's still video. They just call it photojournalist.
Yeah.
I'm not a very good photographer, I'll be honest, but I and just to see the power that video had to give other people a voice, that was really where it no longer became about me. It was like, oh, wow, I can use this skill that I've been honing just by myself in my room with a cheap camera and some lights. I can now turn that around and I can make other people feel heard. and there's no better place to do that than news. I mean, even if it's a goofy story about like, hey, someone's like chicken got out and they're looking for it. And if some local thing, or if it's something serious, like someone's like worst day of their life, somebody passed or something tragic happened, my camera and my presence being there gave someone a chance who otherwise maybe wasn't going to feel heard and felt alone to feel like somebody was listening. And so that was the fuel to say, okay, I want to keep pursuing this and I want to get better at this because this tool has so much power. It brings people's stories forward. And that has been sort of the drive behind, whether it's in a creative environment or whether it's like business, whatever, commercials. It's empowering to people, and that was exciting. And that's what stuck with me.
That's really cool. So it's almost like you had this moment where it made an impact on you and helped you find your place in the world, find your voice, as you said. And then you had a moment where like, wait a second, it did that for me. Can it do that for other people? That's really cool. And it's very altruistic and not like, I think it's really cool how it's not just about you. Because I know a lot of creatives, we as creative people very easily can get selfish and kind of self-absorbed in what it is that we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and I wrestle with the word creative because I feel like I'm more than anything just providing a service to other people. And sometimes it's hard to see myself as a creative because feel like have more of I'm on mission for my clients more than I am to like be creative, but it is creative too. So yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Sometimes I tell people I'm like, I'm a hired gun. I'm a mercenary.
Yeah.
Like, if you need, if you need to someone to put a team together to go and rob that bank, like we're going to go rob the bank in the form of bringing sales to your company kind of thing. So,
I'm going to try that as my next sales pitch when I got a potential client.
I'll give you that one for free. Cool, man. So you kind of had this journey that brought you to it. You kind of have two questions I want to ask, and I think I'm going to ask this one first. You mentioned that you're kind of at a crossroads. Is that a good way of saying that, or like you're still kind of like
just trying to figure things out? Yeah.
So what does that mean to you in terms of figuring things out? Like, I guess, what is it that you're puzzled by, if you don't mind sharing?
I wish I knew. It's just been I think anyone who's at the beginning of their own journey in creativity, oftentimes, I think, I'm sure this will ring all too true for anyone who's listening, but that balance of like, okay, I got bills to pay, I got a business to build. The business isn't around. It ain't going to pay the bills. So I got to have something to do to get me through. While at the same time, it's like, am I going to have the energy when I get off of that 9 to 5 to go do now, I heard someone say like you get off your 9 to 5 and then you go onto your 5 to 9.
Oh, and dang. Yeah.
And that has been a real wrestle, to be honest. I have things in my life I love. I have family I love. I have things I love. And the sacrifice sometimes it's like, I don't know if am I cut out for this? Like, can I give up what I need to give up, which is my time mostly, to build this, or can I find this in a 9 to 5 environment? And what is the goal? Am I trying to just make a bunch of money? We mentioned at the beginning, or how I said that I love how it gives people a voice. Well, I was doing that at the station when I worked for news. So what do I want to build my own thing? I don't know. And I wish I could answer your question, but that is the question that I think we wrestle with. No,
that makes total sense, because I think, there's always going to be a part of you that has to eat. But there's two parts of that. There's the food for your body, but then there's also the food for your, I call it the soul, your creative self. Because like, it's so funny you say that, because having just left the job, I feel like I'm just on the other side of that crossroads, which is, this thing very much provides for my life, but it's kind of running its course, or has run its course, in terms of providing for the fulfillment that I feel that I need. Yeah. And so I think the whole concept of the show is like, no one's made it like we're making it, and you make it every day. So the fact that you don't know, that means, in my opinion, you're in exactly the right spot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been infinitely fulfilled in this past couple of weeks at this new endeavor, with my new job. It's been really great. And so that is something I'm factoring in as well. But I like what you said about you kind of have your creative soul. I think you just have to be in tune with yourself and check in regularly and say like, am I headed in the direction I want?
Yeah.
I don't know. And so you kind of caught me at a check-in point.
Hey, that's, hey, checkpoint, making sure we're all right, making sure we're all good. Okay. So then, the other question I wanted to ask and kind of follow up would be, let me a preface question before that. How long have you been doing video for?
Well, if I started junior year, that would have been around 2013, 2014, I think. So
you're coming up on a decade or over a decade.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, in a lot of different capacities. But yeah, I've always had my hand in video somehow for the past decade.
So then in that 10 years, like what would you say is, you kind of touched on this already, but what would you say is the part of being a videographer or being a cinematographer that you enjoy the most? Like what scratches that itch for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a unselfish and then a selfish thing. I think the unselfish is, like we said, just giving a voice to people who might otherwise not have one, to have that power. I think that's a great and tremendous responsibility to exercise, and I think it's awesome. And then selfishly, I mean, I don't know, just really like banger shots, like I want to have cool things. And I think that I realized pretty quickly, like, oh, this is something I might be able to figure out. I tried my hand at music, and my family's musically gifted, and it's a little bit in me, but it's not, I picked up a guitar and I was like, I just don't know if I could, move mountains with this. But with the camera, I saw the potential, and I think that was pretty addicting. It was like, ooh, this might not look great right now, but it's got something, I can figure this out. Okay. So it's a little bit of an addiction thing too, I think. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like you kind of found something that was like, if I give some time and energy and attention and like a little bit of my true self to it, there might be something here for me. Yeah, it was paying me back. Yeah. Results were coming out. That's a great way of saying it. Yeah. That's a great way of saying it. Okay. So then in the 10 years you've been doing this, what would you say is your least favorite part? Probably the insurmountable existential dread that comes to sitting at the beginning of an edit when you're like, everything I shot is garbage and I hate everything and I've got terabytes of footage and I need to cut it down to a minute. And it's sort of that like that you enter that like stasis state when you start editing, but it's the time before that, trying to get into that, trying to find that is like, that is. And also if I'm solo gigging out on my own on a shoot and I've got nobody to like vent to and it's just me trapped in my thoughts. Yeah. Ooh, that's tough, but it builds character. That's a dark place sometimes where you're like, if there's no one to talk to. Yeah, there's no therapist in the world that could help in those moments. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this idea of getting into an edit for the first time, one of the things that I want to ask everybody is, I think, especially as a creative, and I'm going to keep calling you that because you are, I think you are. I am. How do you personally handle that moment of, here's the blank canvas, I have to get started? Like, how do you approach your blank canvas? How do you approach the start of your creative process? Oh man, I mean, I kind of fumble through it until I find something that I can hook on to. I don't have a regimen in terms of like, I try to understand if it's a client piece, what is the story we're trying to tell? What's our A point and what's our Z point, and how do we get there? And then I kind of fumble through that a bit until things start to take shape, and then you have that moment where it just kind of clicks, and you're like, oh, I see it, and then you start to massage it a little bit more and get it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid to like. I purposely I try not to take jobs that have like super fast turnaround, so I have time to play and just be like a kid in a sandbox. I love color grading. And so that's not really a place that I would recommend anyone start. But sometimes when I'm having trouble like getting the ball rolling, I'm like, I can't think of a story right now, but I can think about how this shot would look dope with a little extra contrast. And then just play, just treat it like a sandbox. And then that kind of takes the edge off of it. That's cool. A little bit. Yeah, because I feel that. There's like this moment between when you sit down to start working and, okay, I know what I need to do now. Yeah. And that's kind of that moment in between. That's what I'm most interested in exploring with everyone that comes on. So like, what's it like being in that moment? Because the thing that I think, I believe everyone's creative or has the potential to be creative, but if you're not a creative, I don't think you understand what that moment is, if that makes sense. Like you don't, like if you're not someone who makes something on a regular basis, being in that moment of
between I've started this project and now I know what I'm doing. It can be a very scary place, especially when money's involved. Someone's hired you for that. So like, I guess what I'm asking is like, what's it like for you in that space? And do you, any tips, tricks, gotchas for navigating that? Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I don't know if this is like the answer that you're really looking for, but I mean, I just want to communicate to people that like, I think when you're in the stages of figuring this out, and I don't think we're ever not in that stage, I do just kind of fumble through. I mean, I don't have, it's like I'll pull sound bites and try to find something that inspires me in the piece. If I see B-roll that I think is cool, maybe I'll just start cutting up a B-roll sequence, just something that just makes it feel fun. I try to like, I have a problem where I'll approach it and I just want to make a masterpiece, like right out of the gate. There's a lot of pride that comes into it at the beginning. I'm just like, oh man, like I want this to be the best ever. Like I want to knock their socks off. And then at some point I realize I can't really get the ball rolling until I lay my pride aside and say like, it'll be what it'll be. And I'm just an explorer of this footage that I've got. Now, for context, I'm going on shoots that are generally like B-roll acquisition. Like a lot of people have not thought out, the client has not considered what the story is. There's no shot list. There's no, because if you pre-produce, if you take a lot, that would be my technical recommendation is like pre-production matters probably more than any, like, because the more time you spend in pre-production, the more you can just get out there and execute. And even in the edit, you can get in there and you can execute. That is not a luxury that I have very often. Like they don't have the time. They don't have the budget for pre-production. They say, take your camera, get out there and figure it out. And so the edit starts to become a little bit of like an exploration. And I think you just have to kind of embrace that exploration and embrace the discomfort and say, this is tough right now, but like what I am going to learn when I get out on the other side will hopefully make the next time maybe not even necessarily smoother, but just I'll have the confidence.
Yeah.
And that has been my main goal is like, I'm done trying to like prove that I'm like the best there ever was in the edit. It's just me in the room. I don't know who I'm trying to prove it to but myself. Let's lay that side of me down and let's just explore what I've got in front of me and it's a blank canvas and let's try to see that as something that's exciting and not something that should be scary.
That's cool. That's a very self-aware and like humble, but also confident way of approaching that because in that moment is like, because I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of I want to make a masterpiece every time. And sometimes like to no fault of a client or anyone, like it might not be this project that I do that on.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, talking about pre-production, like the hard skill part is like making sure it's clear what the deliverables are.
Yep.
And what's a good deliverable in the client's eyes, so I know what that is, because that gives me some direction in terms of where I'm going.
Yeah, no, that's a great point to add because I guess I was going into that question already with just assuming the project already has not really gone to plan. Yeah. Ideally, we want to, as people that these clients have entrusted us to get them through this video journey, like we should be trust in our expertise and say, hey, let's schedule a Zoom meeting, schedule a thing, let's pre-produce.
30 minutes,
Yeah, it's all you need. So that would of course be my first thing is have that conversation about what are we trying to do here and really get into the weeds, or can you do a pre-interview, with the person that you're talking to? Can you make sure you personally, are you comfortable with the story that you're about to walk into and film? Do you understand what is happening? Because I spent biggest blunder I've done is going into a freelance gig not really having a clue what even I'm there for.
Really?
And just sort of that was like my early stages. I just kind of show up and I have like I have a one client I work with. They're a large.
No naming names. They're the best client.
I got you. Yeah.
Best client in the world.
No. They're kind of my first like major client, and they've been really great to work with and kind of explore what this could look like with me. And they're a major solar company. And I don't know a thing about solar. And I went on my first shoot not knowing a thing about solar. And I after that first one, I was like, that would have gone infinitely easier if I knew what any of these words were that people were talking about. So I sat down and like I educated myself. And that's a cool thing about video. And I encourage people, like, you have an opportunity, and that's kind of the crux of what my whole freelancing is that I have an opportunity to step into someone else's world, step into what they're passionate about. So I better come passionate about their thing too.
Yeah.
If I can.
Yeah.
And that has helped tremendously, just being excited with the client, because they clearly care enough about, or, you know, maybe they're the marketing team and they don't care one way or the other, but someone cares enough about what they're doing to want you to come film it.
Yeah.
And so care with them, I think, is a big part of that.
I love that. Someone cares enough to bring you there, so care with them.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, so that's like the technical side in terms of like the pre-pro, but then the creative side or the soft side would be the caring part, you know? And like when I'm in this moment where I don't really know what I'm doing, like what would I want to watch? You know, or to your point, like, how can I care about this in a way that makes them look good? You know? So yeah, I think that's all very valuable insight. I'm going to try something I didn't have planned.
Go for it.
I've asked you a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me?
Well, I'd like to know, does this resonate with you? Because as we mentioned, I do see you as somebody who is, and granted, I'm still trying to figure out what my path is, but I have the notion that my path is going to look a little similar to yours. And I see you as sort of, that's why I mentioned you as a trailblazer. You're a couple of steps ahead in that regard. You've kind of taken that leap. You are doing this, you know, for your full-time thing. So I'd be curious to know, you know, for one, if what I'm saying has any, like, were you there at any point? Like, do you feel
100%?
Yeah. Do you feel that now? I mean, what is being a few steps ahead? What do you feel now about the process when you look at your own blank canvas?
I would say in my own blank canvas, a couple things. For me, I feel like I have a very clear creative process that works for me in terms of all of the things that you said were correct. Pre-production, I would even add in on the front end what I call creative development. A lot of times I don't even hit the red button until I know a general direction of what the story is I'm trying to tell, whether that's for a 30-second commercial or a 10-minute corporate documentary or even like a content shoot. Like, we have to have some kind of direction for what it is that we're making. And because of what I do a lot of commercial work. It's like, I don't really have a lot of narrative experience. It's all for product. 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100, what I'm doing is tied to some business problem. And so, like, if I can understand the business problem better, that's going to inform the creative. And so all of the things you're saying, yes, I agree 100%. And I think the other side of it is like, I think I've just been doing it long enough that, like, and I actually just had this conversation with my dad. I have a stack of proof that I can point at and say of work that I'm confident in and that I can say, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Because I think to say that you know everything is a recipe for disaster.
Right.
One of the people that I looked up to when I first started, shout out Cooney Ohi on Instagram back in Virginia. He told me, I think he said, is like, I've just been doing this long enough that I know that I've made all the mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel like I'm reaching that point is like, when I go into production, I know there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
So now it's just like, I've been doing this a little bit long enough that I know what the signals are that's going to say, hey, my problem's going to be here. And I can kind of anticipate that. And then when it rears its head, it's like, okay, cool. It's where I thought it was. And I also have kind of a bag of experience to say, I've been through something similar like that before. And I think if we try this solution, it should work.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, like clients hire us to solve their problems.
Yeah.
I just got to figure out how to solve the problem for the money that they've given me. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Was that when you discovered that, when you built that confidence, was that the confidence you needed to say, I can do this on my own?
Yeah. It was very recent. It was this year. I had a chance to direct a series of commercials for, I'll just say the name, Napa Auto Parts. So if you see any of this stuff that's running on TV,
flex on us, man. Yeah, go for it.
Not the cool stuff that you were talking about. I didn't direct that.
Well,
but the stuff,
DNA was still there.
Yeah, the stuff where it's a young lady going to a parts garage and she's getting her brakes changed or her air filters changed.
Oh man, I know your portfolio well, man. Yeah. I've seen it. Yeah, I'm a fan.
I had a chance to direct those, and like. Not like, no, like I was standing there saying, we're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
And the feedback that I got from the client team and from the team that hired me to do it was like, that was the smoothest shoot we've ever done.
Nice.
This is exactly what we needed, knocked it out of the park, that kind of stuff. And like at that moment, I was like, yeah, I got it. Like I can do this.
That must have been a great feeling.
It is. Yeah, and like, It is empowering, and to be as humble as I can, like, we talked before this about paying your dues. Yeah. That was the moment where I was like, not that I need to stop paying them, but I've paid enough that like, no, I got it. Like I can go do this kind of thing. But it just creates a whole new set of problems in terms of like.
But that's growth opportunity.
Yeah,
though.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and you're paying a different kind of dues now because you're sitting here with me. Telling me about what, you're giving me a look behind the curtain of what maybe my next couple of steps are going to look like, and I think that is, that's super cool. Just sort of the symbiotic relationship that us as videographers share.
Yeah. Pay it forward always. That's my thing. Like they say, I'm going to swear, karma's a bitch, but her sister, Lady Luck, is patient. And if you treat karma well, usually Lady Luck shows up for you.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of, and I've certainly had my battle with this, a lot of like young creatives struggle with the most is that feeling of like, man, I deserve to be doing what I know I can do right now. And there's sort of an unwillingness to kind of like go through the trenches a little bit. And I think that that is like, as I'm discovering now, has been one of the most important moments so far in my career has been just going through the trenches. Things are not always going to look like the way that you envision them 100%. But there is so much to be learned in those opportunities as you begin to build your kingdom out, being a willing participant in someone else's work is, that's a good place to be. You're not in a bad place. Like I understand feeling burnt out, strung out, feeling like you're just on the grind 24/7. And I hope for anyone that's listening that they will get to that point where they can find that freedom in their work. But I wouldn't discredit all the things you're learning in that season that feels super dry.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And you'll appreciate it later. Even the things happening right now, I will come in a couple years to realize, man, I needed that.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's that whole concept of like planting seeds and then harvesting, right?
Yeah,
like
there's a time.
There's a time to sow and there's a time to reap, right? And
I think I read that somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. There's a good book on that. What I was gonna say is that like in those times where you're in the trenches, like that's very much sowing. But I think one of the things that I would say to people is pay attention to your inner voice because it will tell you when it's time to reap.
Yeah,
you'll feel it. If for me, it manifested as discomfort.
Yeah,
it was the discomfort of where I was became more uncomfortable than dealing with the fear of trying something new. And once I hit that point, I was like, no, I have to do the thing that I'm afraid of because this is killing me.
And that is bringing so much context to when you were asking me earlier about like what season you're in, that just describes it so perfectly right there that, I don't want to hold myself back, and I fear that sometimes, but I got to say, I still feel a little bit of conviction that voice inside is still saying, you still got a little bit of lessons to learn, and you're taken care of right now. I've got so much great things going in life. There's no rush right now, but I agree that there is just something, and you need to take time to listen to yourself thoroughly too, because I think everyone's there. There's that one part of the brain that's screaming, like, let me jump out of here right now and do my own thing. But it's like, no, man, like you patience is going to serve you tremendously.
Yeah. Now, if I could go back and do it all over again, I still would have left, but I would have started preparing sooner and preparing more. So I just quit my job in March of this year. It's 2024. It is now, what is it, November? About Thanksgiving. Yes, Thanksgiving next week. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Hey, we made it. I made a point to save up some money so that I could have some runway. I didn't save enough. And so I very much got into a point very early in probably April, May, June, where I was like, I need to start booking some work or I need to go look for a job. Now I lucked out. Shout out Christina. I love you, baby. We agreed that like, hey, if we're not seeing anything that this is turning up by like August, September, then okay, you gave it a real shot, but for the sake of sacrificing the life and the kind of financial nest egg that we've built together, it's going to take us too far down if we let this go too long without getting work. Spoiler alert, August work came in, September work came in, and then kind of snowballed it from there. But yeah, just like if you're thinking about doing it, even if it's you, have a runway. And I would say 3 to 6 months of runway. Yeah. Because then you don't have to go get it.
Yeah. Well, shout out Alec too. That was a conversation we had recently when we met over a Zoom call. I had expressed that very thing of like, I don't feel super compelled to like just jump off and go for it right now. But I also don't know if I know what that voice is going to sound like. Like, how do I know? And I thought he was going to, when I was talking to him about it, I thought he was going to go into something about like, well, you got to get X amount of clients or whatever. But no, the first thing he went to was like, know what your runway is. Like, what do you have? What do you need? Crunch the numbers. I had never, I mean, it seems obvious in hindsight, but you just as a creative, you try to not think a lot. Sometimes I think, at least me, I don't like thinking about money. It makes me a little bit uncomfy. And that was the first time someone had been like, no, you got to like figure out how your money's talking first. And that will give you an actual like statistical number of like, this is the point in which you have the flexibility to jump off. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. I was so busy in thinking about, is my talent where it needs to be? And was not thinking about, do I have the capital to like survive, and shout out to my wife, Molly, for being the one she was like, we need money. And I was like, do we? But nah, she's...
Yeah. Something about wives. Yeah,
she wants to eat or something. I don't know what that's about. I'm not really, but yeah, that was that's great thing to consider. And something I'm doing right now. I'm crunching the numbers right now, thanks to you too, showing me some cool tools of the trade for that. So
Found. If you're a creative, use Found.
Well, hold on. They didn't sponsor this yet, though.
Not yet, but hey, I will gladly put y'all on some game, and then Found, can you sponsor me, please? That'd be fantastic. Cool, man. Well, I can't think of anything else. Is there anything else you want to ask me?
Oh, man. I mean, I could sit here for hours and ask you stuff, man, but
I'll give you 2 more.
2 more? 2 more. Oh, man. What's Jerald up to right now?
Oh, that's a good question. Jerald is up to, so on the back of this whole jump out the ship, when I jumped out at the beginning of this year, I very much jumped out as a freelancer. I was going to market myself as a director and a DP and a producer. That's kind of phase 1. And I was like, if that goes well, then we'll enter phase 2 where we transition from being a freelancer to building a production company. That's very much the mode that I'm in right now. Work usually slows down for me about the end of November till about the end of January, beginning of February. And so I'm using this time to...
People spent their marketing budget, is that?
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing that happens too, is that December 6th, December 7th, I need this and I need it done before the end of the year. And I'm like, I can do that. Yeah. It's one or the other. Yeah. It's showing it to be very slow, which also puts y'all on some game. If you're a freelancer and your work is slow in terms of like work coming in, book a vacation, you'll get booked up immediately. But we're moving into being a production company. That's actually going to be the company that is the producer for this show.
When you say we, what's the team?
Just me. But I'm trying to adopt the mentality of me.
Absolutely.
So transitioning from a freelancer to a production company, there's kind of 3 roles that I want to fill out. There's an executive producer who's kind of the captain of the ship, a creative director who's the pilot. They're kind of the person that they understand the creative needs of each project, and they come up with the way in which, whether that's writing or art direction, they're the person who puts the creative part of the project together. And then you have a producer / project manager, kind of like your first mate. They're the one that goes, okay, we have this shoot that's come in. We have this budget. We need to hire this crew. I'm going to hire this crew. They produce the job. Creative director goes and directs. And so part of making that transition is I've hired a company to build me a website, do SEO for me. I formed an LLC with a DBA. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to drop the name yet because it's not ready yet. But that's kind of in the mode I'm in right now, very much like hibernation, so that come the beginning of next year, like I can have all these things ready to go and to release. And part of that release is this show.
Heck yeah.
That's
what's up.
The world that we live in is very meta right now. Mm-hmm. Not Facebook, Instagram meta, but like
they do own a good part of it though.
But it kind of Facebook, Instagram meta. Yeah. I've gotten more work posting about me doing work than posting finished work.
I have been feeling that lack on my socials right now. So I'm glad you said that. That's a really insightful.
Yeah. And so that's why I want to make this show too, is like one of the things I want to offer as my company is podcast production. So I'm like, people need to know I can do it.
Yeah.
And this is something I've always wanted to do. So let's just get meta and go do it,
Yeah. Sorry, I totally cut
you
off.
Go ahead.
No, that just resonates with me because that's kind of where I'm at right now. Maybe tell me if this is kind of what you're saying, but I have been taking a look at everything, and this is kind of contradict what I said earlier about being humble in the edit and stuff. Yeah. I'm kind of ready to kind of flex a little bit. I have been like, maybe right now is the season I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing for my professional work. I could not be happier in that role. So this is a great opportunity to maybe just explore some spec work.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of go all in on spec work, because as to what you just said, like I just want to prove not only to myself that I can do this, but I just want to show my mettle, Like I just want to show what I believe. I have not created visuals that are to the caliber that I believe I can actually achieve. Yeah. And I'm ready to finally say like, nah, like I'm ready to really show you what I got.
That's awesome.
And so I think that's what you're saying with in regards to this podcast is we just, why not? Let's show the world and because if they want to hire you, they got to know you can do it. And I got to show them. And so I think I'm definitely with you on the just create what you want to create. Yeah. Kind of build what you want to see yourself doing.
Yeah. And that point goes back to that stack of proof, right?
Yeah.
I have to have that stack of proof for the client, but also for myself, so that when I go sit down in a Zoom call for 30 minutes to try and close this deal, like, I know that I can do it, but in a way that's like, I don't need to prove it to them. Yeah. They can feel it off of me, and that's why they buy.
Yeah. And if you're still in a situation of if you're in the paying your dues phase, there's another better thing to do than to just go produce your own stuff, because you're not under deadline. You have the flexibility to just do it for your leisure and your enjoyment and build up that stack so that when it comes time to try to make some dollar bills, you got some stuff behind you. Man, it's like I already knew that, but I also needed to hear that because you've just totally like recharged my batteries.
Sometimes that's the case, dude. Sometimes you just got to hear someone else say it, like, and hearing someone else say it validates that, like, okay, yeah, I'm on the right train of thought. To that point about spec work, there's another guest that I'm trying to get on the show. His name is Jack Lafferty. He's a writer, director, actor here in town.
Oh, cool.
The weekend after Thanksgiving, I'm line producing a short film for that. You are going to come and do data management. Some
capacity, looking forward to it.
So doing that. Also been writing music again, just because there was a period in my life where music was like, I was going to be a professional musician. Yeah. And when that didn't work out, I needed about 5 years to heal. And that 5 years has ended about now. And so recently bought a MIDI keyboard, like an Arturia MIDI keyboard, some sound packs, got Ableton.
Yeah.
I've had an interface, like I've had all these things for a while, but I just updated them and kind of modernized them and started approaching it music as just like, let me just, again, explore, get in and explore and find what's the music that I would want to listen to? What is it that I want to play? What is it that I have to say? And if I don't have to say anything, like, no cap, I've recorded 10 seconds of silence just to be like, this is what it is, you know? And what's weird is by approaching it that way is like kind of the floodgates have opened again.
Right.
To a point where, like, you know, I released probably 3 EPs over the course of 4 years. So like 12 songs. I have like probably a batch of like 12 songs that once I finish those, I could release as one collection of music, which is something I've never done before.
Wow.
And I'm really excited about that. But I also point to when I left my job at the beginning of the year, part of leaving was getting some of my time back. And not even like getting it back, but having control over my time.
Yeah.
And but the reason I can make that music is because I'm like, I try to be very disciplined with, it's time to work, do the work.
Yeah.
But when the work is done, I said, you can ask Christina, at the end of the day, I say, I've moved the needle today. I've done everything I need to do. There's nothing left for me to do today.
Yeah.
If it's 4 o'clock, if it's 11 a.m., if it's 9 o'clock at night, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I can move on and go play Starfield for 2 hours and enjoy my life, you know?
Yeah. Actually, I know we're just kind of talking, but I think that's actually a really important point to bring up is that, like, as an artist, like, one of the most important things I think you can do is find your resting place. Just to find that place to recharge, find that place where you can be built back up, because we let out so much of us in the creative process. We got to build that back up and charge that back up. And I think that our art is informed by our experiences. And so you got to go have experiences, whether those are restful experiences or getting out with the wife, you know, having a great day on the town, or like whatever that means to you. If you are so caught up in your work and you just want to be the best you can be, honestly, the best thing I can say is probably to take breaks and breathe and rest and go have experiences and build life, because that will inform what you create as you learn. That's something I have learned. I have been at my most creative when I have been living my life. Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that. Art imitates life. So go live life.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate you coming. That's all I got. You got anything else, or?
No, man. I mean, just, subscribe, follow? What are we, what platforms are we on?
Subscribe, follow. I'm going to put them all down somewhere in here. We're still figuring that out. I have a bad habit of trying to plan things all the way out before I exactly know what I'm doing. This is very much a jazz experience for me. I have an idea of what the chord symbols are, of what the chord changes are.
We get it. You're a musician.
And we're gonna improv in here somewhere. So to your point, playing in the sandbox. So I'll make sure you all know. I'll probably record something afterwards to say like, hey, like and subscribe here. But more importantly, Sam, thanks for coming, dude. I appreciate you coming to hang out.
I appreciate you having me. I was really excited when I got the text. Thank you so much.
I hope that this was helpful, therapeutic in a way. Maybe, can give you some little bit of direction. And I took a lot from this because it's been very validating in terms of like the things that you've said are things that I remember feeling and still feel.
Yeah.
And I think if anything, it's like, sometimes creatives, we kind of get in our own worlds, and it's like, no, like, you have a very specific skill set that is good, that you are a master at. And I think, and I have one that might be different. There might be some overlap, but like the more we can work together, I think that makes it better for everyone.
Well, I look forward to seeing what that's going to look like. And I just want to say, I thank you for this experience and this time, and for being, I think at some point we're going to find our own unique paths, but in this very moment, I just appreciate what you are doing to trailblaze forward and be a model of what this can look like, how you can take what you love and turn it into something that is going to sustain you and out of that, help a lot of people get their messages out there. So I appreciate that. Thanks, dude. You. Where can people find you? Oh, well, this is where it's like embarrassing. My social presence is basically nothing. This is something I'm going back to the drawing board on and trying to figure out. But if you just want to shoot me a message, you can find me on Instagram at Liminal Picture House. That's LIMINAL Picture House. A little bit of a mouthful, but that's kind of my business name.
I like
and
it.
just, shoot me a DM if you're creative and you just want to link up and just kind of connect. That would be a great place to do it. And that's about the only one I can shout out. I'm trying out all the new like Blue Sky threads, all that. I'm not quite sure if that's my home, but right now,
Nice.
hit me up on the IGs.
Cool, man.
On the
Well,
gram.
thanks, dude.
Yeah, man.
We're going to
Thank
cut
you.
it there.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Take care.